Welcome everyone to the Ordinary Council meeting of the 21st of June 2022. Before we start, I'll just make sure we have one councillor online. Councillor Ripper, can you see and hear me?
Yeah, I can see and hear you.
Thanks, Councillor Ripper. Members of the public gallery should note that the Council records and publishes Council meetings via YouTube to enhance the accessibility of Council meetings to the broader Wellington community. These recordings are also archived and may be published on Council's website for viewing by the public or used for publicity or information purposes. At the appropriate times during this meeting, members of the gallery may address the Council, at which time their image, comments or submissions will be recorded. Members of the public who are not in attendance at the Council meeting but who wish to communicate with Council via the online web form should lodge their questions or comments early in the meeting to ensure that their submissions can be dealt with at the end of the meeting. Please, could gallery visitors, councillors and those invited online attendees ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or in silent mode for the duration of the meeting? Could we please stand for the acknowledgement and prayer? We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gunai-Kurnai people, and pay respects to their elders past and present. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon the Wellington Shire, its councillors, officers, staff and their families. We pray for your guidance in our decisions so that the true good of the Wellington Shire Council may result to the benefit of all residents and community groups. Amen. Please sit down. We have a couple of apologies. Councillor Rossetti and the CEO David Morecambe, and Chris Hasty is our acting CEO. Do we have any declarations of conflicts of interest? Councillor Tatterson.
Thank you, Mayor. I declare I've got a potential material conflict of interest at item 15.4, C115 and P542/21, North Sale Area 11 rezoning and subdivision. As a family member is an employee of the consultancy firm working on this item.
Thank you, Councillor Tatterson. Any other conflicts? No? Item 3.1, adoption of minutes of previous council meeting. Can I have someone to move that, please? Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council adopt the minutes and resolutions of the Ordinary Council meeting of the 7th of June 2022.
And can I have someone to second that, please? Councillor Mackenzie. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Happy with that, Councillor Wood? Item 4, business arising from previous meetings, we have none. Item 5, acceptance of late and urgent items, we have none. Item 6, notices of motion, we have none. Item 7, receiving petitions or joint letters. Before we move that, would anyone in the audience like to speak to the petition? Come forward to the lectern and state your name, and you have 3 minutes to address the council.
Good evening, my name's Kathy Lummerson. I am a resident of Sale. I'm here tonight to speak to the petition being submitted to Council about due diligence regarding COVID-19 vaccination restrictions and worker mandates. And can I say how nice it is to be here this evening without having to prove that I am worthy and of a clean enough status to be present in the room. Council previously responded to a prior petition on COVID-19 public health approach that they had completed a risk management impact and reported that there's no effect to consider, as was advised at the Council meeting on the 19th of April. This petition has been raised to have the Council release the documents, links and resources relating to the relevant human rights and risk assessments that the Council were obliged to undertake as part of their due diligence and also their fiduciary duty when imposing restrictions and mandates on members of our community. I freely acknowledge that most of these restrictions have now been lifted due to the easing of state government public health advice, but harms were inflicted on members of this community with the implementation of restrictions to public toilets, libraries, gyms, pools, art galleries, etc. And this is evidenced by numerous previous letters of impact that were submitted to Council. It should be of no issue for the evidence to be provided to the public so that individuals in our community can understand the relevant risk-benefit analysis for each facility. And that way, the people who were denied access to rehabilitation at gyms and pool facilities can see why their personal health and goals were not deemed important, especially given that staying fit and healthy is apparently one of the best ways we can avoid becoming a burden on our healthcare system and community. Given that I used to work as a physiotherapist before I handed in my APRA registration, then I feel like I'm pretty qualified to have comment on that. And as someone who once worked in pelvic health, I would especially love to see the risk assessments and human rights assessments relating to the denial of access to public toilets in council facilities, because as a living person, let alone someone who's worked in pelvic health, I cannot think of any reason why anyone should ever be denied access to a public toilet. But I can recount several stories that have been shared with me from members of this community. So while the restrictions have been eased, it's imperative that Wellington Shire Council undertake these assessments prior to implementing any future restrictions should state public health orders recommend them, especially because Council have since been advised of unintended harms arising from their previous restrictions, and also because the Public Health and Wellbeing Act specifically states that human rights shouldn't be ignored, nor should any actions be made or taken in an arbitrary manner. The State Government has also advised that as of midnight this coming Friday night, members of our community who were finally allowed into libraries, cafes and gyms again a couple of months ago can now actually not just attend these facilities but return to work. Given that Council have previously advised that they were just following orders, I would like to think that the second part of the petition relating to worker mandates in council facilities is now a moot point, and that vaccination mandates will no longer be required across the Shire, but will only be applied in the relevant settings after risk and human rights assessments have been completed. I look forward to being reassured that Wellington Shire Council has indeed fulfilled their due diligence and fiduciary obligations, and that they will of course do so in the future so as to avoid any further unintentional harms or discrimination in our community. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Cathy. Can I please have a councillor to move the motion to receive the petition? Councillor Marr.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council receive the attached petition requesting risk assessments for various council venues and for Council to cease worker vaccination requirements.
Can I have someone to second that motion?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Councillor Ripper. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Thanks, Councillor Marr. Councillors, as you are aware, we received this petition on the 6th of June, and you have all been provided with a copy for your review, and therefore we have the option to either lay the petition on the table and deal with it over the next 2 council meetings, or we can deal with it now, given that we are familiar with the content and have had time to consider it. So with governance, I need to ask, can I please have a show of hands, those councillors that wish to address this petition now? Councillor Ripper? That is unanimous. Can I please have a councillor move the motion to address this petition? Councillor Marr.
I'm happy to do that, Mayor. That in response to the petition, Council directs the CEO to respond to the head petitioner in writing, ensuring that the response includes Council's obligation to adhering to state government directives. Can I have someone to second that? Councillor Crosley. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Happy with that, Councillor Marr? I'm happy with that and nothing further to add. Item 8, invited addresses, presentations or acknowledgements. Item 9, questions on notice. There are none. Item 10, Mayor and Councillors' Report, May 2022. Do I have someone to move that?
Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Mackenzie.
I wish to move that the Mayor and Councillors' Report be noted.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Wood. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Mackenzie.
Second, Mayor.
Councillor Mackenzie's microphone's not on, Mayor.
Good pick up, thank you. Probably easier if you sit down, because then you'll hear better in the microphone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. During the month of May, 50 events were attended by councillors and mayors, not all together in separate events, but really either in person or virtual. And some of the highlights of that were the Wellington Housing and Homelessness Forum in Sale, the Wellington Shire Candlelight Vigil to remember lost lives due to family violence, the Fulham Correctional Centre Pre-Service Course Correctional Office graduation, the renewable energy discussion with representatives from Dyson, Dyers, H2X and Brett Singh. Minister Horn's site visit at McLaughlin's Beach Jetty, where the announcement was made of in excess of $1 million for the rehabilitation of the jetty. And I'm sure that the Mayor, obviously on that day, had a great time. It was freezing cold and wet, and the next day was beautiful and sunny. But that's Port Albert and the area. The 2022-23 draft budget submission, special council meeting and workshop was held. An ESSO Australia 2022 community and stakeholder liaison dinner. The GRSC media promotion of a boxing event, the Wildfighter Boxing. Again, the Mayor attended. He's not very good at boxing, as we saw. And the council and community conversation early years sales feasibility study. But one of the most important events was a strategic partnership working day where a number of councillors attended the Glowwack office in Lakes Entrance and that was a really empowering meeting. We were shown through the premises, we had discussions over lunch, and really what came to my light was how our traditional owners want to move forward. They're not worried about the past, they just want to move forward and into the future. And I think what also highlighted to me was the lack of knowledge that we possess about our traditional owners through school. And I hope that one day our Prime Ministers and state governments and federal governments really have the empowerment and make a decision to include the learning of our traditional owners for our kids so that we can, as a country, start moving forward together. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Mackenzie. Item 11.1, Youth Council Report. Unfortunately, our Youth Mayor, Nicola, cannot attend tonight, but can I have someone to move her report? Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council receive the Youth Mayor's quarterly report.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Crosley. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Wood.
I'm just going to pick out a few items that Nicola has written down here. Shortly after the last report, a small group of youth councillors, including the entire leadership team, travelled to Maffra Secondary College to run activities and icebreakers for their leadership day. That was very successful. The all ages wasn't only time working with the push over the school holidays, but councillors travelled to Melbourne to participate in a workshop in upskilling our event planning and management skills, which is very, very important for them. Also, during Youth Week, they set up a headspace. Set up a headspace booth at the Sales Skate Park, and they held giant games and they had a chill out zone. That was very, very successful. Youth councillors have been fortunate to participate in a couple of leadership workshops in the recent months, and this all goes to upskilling these young people. Nicola states, we've had a great start for the year so far, and we're coming up near the halfway mark with a fresh start with a new youth liaison coordinator, which has raised excitement for youth councillors. We are eager to see what lies ahead under new direction and can't wait for the council to watch our plans come to life.
Thanks, Councillor Wood. Item 12, Delegates Report. Do we have a Delegates Report?
Thank you, Mayor.
Could you turn your microphone on? Just move it a bit closer to you, please. Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. Go ahead.
It's a hard night, isn't it? Thank you, Mayor. I wish to table a Delegates Report for Star of the South, June 21, 2022. June 2022 has been a huge month for Star of the South, with the announcement of a new CEO and CBUS taking a 10% interest in the project. The CEO appointment is Charles Rattray. Charles Rattray has been appointed as the CEO commencing in August 2022. Charles is a dynamic and respected senior leader in the energy and finance sectors with experience across generation development, new technology and transmission. In his most recent role as Managing Director for Nexif Energy, Charles oversaw energy projects through all stages of the project life cycle, including the Lincoln Gap Wind Farm and Snapper Point Gas Peaking Plant. He brings a strong passion for transferring energy systems and renewable energy to the Star of the South team and is driven to have a positive impact with the project on which he works. Charles succeeds Caspar Frost-Forhog, who served the Star of the South Chief Executive for 2.5 years until March 2022. And as I said, the other important announcement is that Cbus Super has acquired 10% stake in Star of the South. This is another fantastic announcement, and the Cbus Super has acquired 10% stake in Star of the South, indicating strong investor confidence in the project and Australia's growing offshore wind sector. The sector has attracted a significant interest recently, with the Victorian Government announcing a 9 gigawatt offshore wind target by 2040 and enabling legislation, the Offshore Electricity Infrastructure Act 2021, coming into effect. Cbus is Australia's leading business and construction industry super fund, and with CIP's partnership with Cbus, will strengthen local participation in the Star of the South, while continuing to draw on CIP's leading global expertise in developing and delivering offshore wind projects, and is Cbus's first direct investment in offshore wind in Australia and part of a growing portfolio of renewable investments. These two key announcements certainly show the Star of the South is leading the pack in offshore wind farm development, as further recognised by one of the largest superannuation funds in Australia. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thanks very much for that update. Item 13.1, Chief Executive Officer Report, May 2022. Can I have someone to move that? Councillor Tatterson.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the Chief Executive Officer's report for May be received.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Tatterson.
Thank you, Mayor. Certainly our CEO, again, has been really busy. A whole number of external meetings as well as running the organisation. So thanks to David for his continued hard work. A couple of key meetings. The Councillor Mackenzie mentioned the GLAWAC meeting that a number of councillors and the CEO attended, which is really significant. The ESO community dinner and meetings with Rural Councils Victoria, as well as a number of other meetings that are documented. So keep up the good work, Mr CEO.
Thanks, Councillor Tatterson. Item 14.1, Assembly of Councillors. Can I have someone to move that, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Stevens.
I'd like to move that Council note and receive the attached Assembly of Councillors records for the period 30th May 2022 to 12th of June 2022.
Can I have someone to second that? Councillor Wood. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mayor. I mean, that's basically a statutory requirement of Council to report back on our formal Assembly, and it's all set out in the agenda. I don't think anything else is required.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Item 14.2, Audit and Risk Committee Minutes. Can I have someone to move that, please?
Yes, thank you,
Councillor
Mayor.
Stevens.
Yes. I'd like to move that 1, Council receive and note the minutes in brief of the Audit and Risk Committee from its 22nd of May 2022 as attached, and the confidential attachment Audit and Risk Committee minutes of the 22nd of May 2022, and item 2 as set out in the Council agenda.
And can I have someone to second that? Councillor Mackenzie. Just beat you by a whisker, Councillor Ripper. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Mayor. The quarterly meeting of the Audit and Risk Committee was held, as stated in the agenda, on the 26th of May. Again, it was a very useful meeting. We have very good independent members, of course, with the Chair, Mr Chris Badger, and our two other new independent members, joined with Councillor Mackenzie and I. We had discussions with the internal auditors on the program of internal audit reports and revised the order of internal audit reports. Council will be aware, Mayor, that we basically have got a rolling program of reports we do in all sections of the council operations with our internal auditors, and that was, as I say, reviewed and updated for the next 12, 18 months. We also had a good discussion with the external auditors. They were reporting just on their program for this year's audit project. Of course, the external auditors are from Crowe Howarth, and they are the agents for the Auditor General. And I think they reported everything is proceeding well for our annual council audit. Other matters were basically, I think, fairly standard, Mr. Mayor, but it's very pleasing to note that all our audit and risk matters are basically in hand. I think at the next meeting, Councillor Mackenzie, we're going to have a more in-depth discussion on risk management. Yes, so which is also another very important subject. So yes, that's all very pleasing, and thanks again to all our council staff for the work that they're doing, because it's a big body of work to keep our audit and risk activities in hand, Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Stevens. Item 15.1, monthly planning decisions, April 2022. If I could have someone to move that. Councillor Marr.
I move that Council note the report on recent planning permit trends and planning application determinations between the 1st of April and the 30th of April 2022.
And could I have someone to second that, please? Councillor Stevens. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Marr.
Just quickly, there's 61 decisions for the month. As you can look at the attachments and see the tables that have been placed in there, that there's a significant increase of active files since February of 2022. And there's also been a drop in decisions issued within 60 days. However, I think that it's important to understand the impact and challenges that the council is currently experiencing around resourcing and the amount of work that they have been faced with as a result of COVID and the developments that have been increasing in our regional area. So keep up the good work and well done.
Thanks, Councillor Marr. Item 15.2, Sale Western Growth Area, Warwick Development Plan. Before I move that, we have some people in the gallery and some online comments as well. If you'd like to speak to that matter, if you just come up to the rostrum and you have 3 minutes to address the council.
Mayor Byer and councillors, my name is Des Phillips and I reside at 59 Coonahan Drive, Warwick, on the Bonavista estate, bordering the proposed development. I submitted a protest against a small portion of the development bordering my eastern boundary some time ago, when the protest was called for. The realignment of Arnott Road will block the rear entrance to my property. The Shire's response was to shift my rear gate to the southern part of Arnott Road. This solution would incur cost to myself, a pensioner, and involve disrupting my southern boundary fence line and removing a number of mature trees, plus installing a new driveway. I understand that the project will have future benefits for sale and possibly attract a larger population to the town. However, given the current economic climate and the threat of a world recession and other financial implications, it may be some time before the project matures. Now is the time to make these small adjustments and keep the current ratepayers happy. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thanks, Des.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, councillors. My name is Loretta Jackson and I live in Gemma Court on the Sovereign Estate. I've never been to a council meeting before. I've never met any of you people. Needless to say, none of you have met me at any time. Our concerns are twofold. First, that the current reserve of trees and other bushland, which was created as part of the original Sovereign Estate, will be lost. It is necessary to maintain this area to provide a buffer between the current and proposed tracts of land, as the land was created as an integral part of sovereign estate. Not only was it an integral part of sovereign estate, but those bordering on it had to maintain it. The council did not maintain it. It should not be excised to be part of the new subdivision. It should remain with sovereign estate. And I know the response to that is that it's impractical, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry, it's not. It's just a matter of doing it. Secondly, there is no indication of the number of lots to be created, which doesn't help us to determine what's going to be behind our property. At the moment, obviously, it's open land and we have a buffer. That's going to go. And there were more, maybe high density and medium density lots, so we're not sure. We've been told that it's going to be a minimum of 1,000 metres squared, which is 1/4 of an acre. When you consider the size of the blocks in the Ridge Estate and the Sovereign Estate, it's pretty pathetic. The nature of the lots is in the estate on two sides of the subdivision, namely low density rural. The retention of bushland is even more important if land adjoining existing estates have high density zoning. Finally, the proposed subdivision has attracted a lot of interest from residents of existing estates, yet no changes, no matter what propositions were put forward or examples or changes, no changes have been made, which means that really you're not listening to us, which is usual. One could be given for thinking that it's money and that's all that matters. To us, it's our life, it's our lifestyle. To any of you, I'm not allowed to ask a question, I got told that today. If any of you lived on the estate, you know what a good lifestyle we have, and you're about to ruin it. So we're not happy. The other thing that bothers us at the end of our block is a water ponding reserve. I think that's what it's called. It took me 5 months last year to get somebody from the council to come and maintain that. The grass was this high. If it had been a property of somebody, privately owned property, they would have been fined. I had to keep calling and calling and calling. It's ridiculous. So I would like to see our lifestyle considered. I know it probably won't be, but it's important to us. We're old and we're retired, and we've moved from Melbourne to Sale because of health reasons and because we wanted the quiet living, which we've got. And you're going to take that away from us. Thank you.
Thanks, Loretta.
Alan Hayward, Pearsondale resident. For those elsewhere listening, I have prior to this meeting given councillors the opportunity to view the written reasons for my objection. So just briefly, this Shire Council is on record saying it is required to consult and mostly adopt outside expert opinion to steer the direction of decisions made for us, the citizens, who are the contributors to the continued employment of all those within. It does not add up that I need to employ outside help and legal assistance to argue against an institution such as yours, which is charged to do this task on my behalf. Recently, via the recommended way, I asked a councillor of mine to arrange for me the opportunity to speak to all councillors prior to this council meeting tonight, but my request was apparently rejected by someone inside the Shire. I now have more proof that my Shire is reluctant to satisfy ratepayers by participating in discussions and making efforts to find solutions to problems which affect us. I confirm tonight that my objection to the passing of the stormwater management part of the DP remains. for the simple reason that more water than is recommended to be released will be flowing onto my property, which has a dead-end waterway, with no current method for me to pass this water on. In the past and in the future, I will have rateable land underwater because the stormwater coming from Warwick into Pearsondale. The Warwick developers have had 3 years to draw up their plan. Objectors like me in the Shire had 3 weeks over Christmas. Now, this was after taking out the 3 weeks of holiday where offices were closed. And tonight we have 3 minutes to talk to you. So finishing off, I have offered to discuss any options to move forward on this with those proposing the development, but there's been no response. It could be irresponsible of our and my council to pass this DP tonight with the current water management system, the current stormwater management system. I therefore ask the councillors to not vote in favour for this plan without the stormwater problems being fixed. Thank you.
Thanks, Helen. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? No? We have a couple of online, Acting CEO.
Yes, Mayor. So there's a couple of online submissions. One from Robert Weston, and just to sort of praise his submission. So he has a question in regards to Sale Western Growth Area, which he believes should not be approved at tonight's meeting. His key issues include the need for a covenant to prevent double-storey dwellings, the need for an acoustic fence to be erected on the western boundaries, ability for the ridge to accommodate additional traffic is a concern for him, and the ability and the impact on property values. He's also concerned about the fact the property was purchased believing that they were going to be surrounded by likewise dwellings. We also have a submission from Mr. Stephen Erie. Both of these submissions, by the way, have been provided to councillors, so just again to go across some of his key concerns. He feels that community has not been adequately their concerns not adequately addressed in this instance. Concerns relating to the potential number of lots to the rear of the existing lifestyle blocks. Again, the need for a covenant to prevent construction of double-storey buildings. The ability of the ridge again to accommodate the additional traffic. And he believes that access should be from the highway or Arnott's Road as in the plans, and should be developed first at developer's expense rather than disturbing and damaging the road. So essentially that covers his submission. Yeah.
Thanks, Acting CEO. With all the proponents that have spoken, if you haven't got a reply, you'll receive a reply to what you've talked about tonight. So can I have someone to move the motion? Councillor Marr.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council 1 approve the Sale Western Growth Area Warwick Development Plan as shown in the Development Plan in Figure 4 and the documents listed in Attachment 1 to this report, and 2, note that an associated developer contribution mechanism...
Mayor, was Councillor Marr's microphone on?
Sorry, it isn't. No. Good pick up again. Can you please start again?
I do apologise, Councillor Ripper. I move that Council 1 approve the Sale Western Growth Area Warwick Development Plan as shown in the Development Plan in Figure 4 and the developments listed in Attachment 1 to this report, and 2, note that an associated developer contribution mechanism is yet to be finalised and considered by Council.
Do you have someone to second that motion?
Mayor, may I ask just a point from left field? I haven't done this before, but I take your guidance and Acting CEO. I just want to, or am I able to, in the process or procedure, ask a question just regarding the 2 speakers tonight, or is it a fait accompli once we move it that we cannot talk or make any comment?
Can I just do a point of order, sorry there, Mayor, that in the midst of doing a moving and seconding, it's inappropriate. The chance was either prior to that, but as a procedural, once you're in the midst of moving a motion, there isn't time for questions in that sense, I believe, as a point of order.
So just carry on. Sorry,
Thanks,
Councillor
Councillor
Ripper.
Crossley. Can I speak after Councillor Crossley, being an long-time mayor?
That'd be the indulgence of the mayor, but certainly in the midst of a motion process.
Motion has to be put first.
I do thank you.
So we'll put the motion. We have a mover. Can we have a seconder? Councillor Tatterson. You can object to the motion, Councillor Ripper, but that's the only opportunity you have.
I think we can speak from memory, Councillor Crossley, you would remember on the 22nd of June a number of years ago, we can speak on it, but then it goes to the vote. Am I correct with that procedure?
I think the motion's been put.
The motion's already been put, Councillor Ripper. So we vote on the motion now.
I thought we could speak and then after, from my memory, that I can speak, and then after you can speak, then people can change their mind and vote for or vote against.
Councillor Ripper, you can only speak against the motion to speak.
Okay.
So we'll now
But
call...
I can change my mind, Mayor.
Correct. So is that motion opposed?
Mayor, this is difficult because I'm not in the chamber, but I would like to just ask direction. Is it a fait accompli that it will go ahead as it is documented in the minutes tonight, or can there be some further discussion regarding the buffer behind Sovereign Estate and regarding the gate, etc.? And I do apologise, the lady who spoke, I just didn't pick up her name, but we'll go back to Des Phillips. Are we able to sort of massage some areas there in the plan?
Councillor Ripper, we have all this information already provided. So a lot of the people that have spoken have provided the information, have had answers already, and you've had the opportunity to read that.
Okay, well, this is on record. That's all I want, that's to be on record. I thank you for your indulgence.
So we need to vote on this matter then if we have an objector. So all those in favour? Motion is carried. Councillor Marr. Comments from the gallery, we don't appreciate that. If you could please leave.
I don't appreciate it, Councillor.
Thank you. Councillor Marr.
We'd like to thank everyone who has attended tonight and spoken to Council, as well as those who have put in submissions to Council, and those responses are found at attachment 2 of the agenda. There's certainly, this matter has a long history that started way back. The Sale, Warwick and Longford Structure Plan was prepared in 2009-2010, setting out the long-term growth for Sale and the Warwick area. In 2009, there was a background and issues paper prepared involving extensive community consultation. Sale, Warwick and the Longford Structure Plan was formally approved by the Minister of Planning in 2012. Amendment C84, which went to a panel hearing in April of 2018, rezoned the land from low density to general residential zonings. A component of the development plan overlay, Schedule 9, coordinates the development and future use and some subdivisions, as well as servicing needs of the area. The key elements that were incorporated into the plan are a network of shared cycling, walking paths, 5.3 hectares of open space with associated sport facilities, playground and barbecue areas and shelters, a stormwater drainage strategy and an integrated network of roads, as well as the fact that there's 1,017 general residential blocks and 238 low-density blocks that will be created. The development plan is made up of a number of technical reports which can be found on the Council's website and can be accessed at the service hubs, and they are outlined in Agenda 1 of the Attachment 1 of the agenda. These technical reports are quite extensive and certainly show the amount of work that has been undertaken for this planning, and includes a development plan, a land budget, concept plan of a neighbourhood activity centre, urban design guidelines, traffic and transport assessments, as well as the stormwater management strategy, as well as some others. This development will certainly provide for a range of lot sizes and will support the pressures that the Wellington Shire is currently experiencing due to growth and changes in our housing demands from those that live here currently and moving here. So thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor. Thanks, Councillor Ma. Item 15.3, planning scheme end at C114, Cabanes East. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Ma.
I'm happy to move that, Mayor. I move that Council, having considered the private request referred to Attachment 1, resolve to advance the planning scheme amendment process to facilitate the rezoning of land within the North Sale growth area to allow general residential development to occur, and 2, pursuant to Section 8A of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, resolve to request the Minister for Planning to authorise Council as the planning authority to prepare Amendment C114, referred to Attachment 2, and 3, resolve to proceed to a period of public exhibition for Amendment C114 on the basis that also authorisation is granted.
Do I have someone to second that motion? Councillor Crosley. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Ma.
This is a private request that is requesting consideration of zoning of land at 33, 35A and B Chinaman's Lane in Sale, as well as part of 13 Cabanes Road in Sale, and that's primarily to consider rezoning commercial 2 zoning and farm zoning to general residential zoning. The Wellington Shire is experiencing an increased population growth and a changing demands of housing choice. Forecast ID modelling has predicted a 30% growth rate over the next 20 years, which is certainly considerable. This land is part of a broader growth area and will contribute to development coordination of residential neighbourhoods that incorporate integrated drainage, open space, as well as movement networks of paths and cycling. Council will seek authorisation from the Minister for Planning once it has been granted. Landowners that are impacted by the zoning will be notified in due course as part of the public exhibition period.
Thanks, Councillor Ma. Item 15.4, C115 and P542/21, North Sale Area 11 rezoning and subdivision proposal. I believe Councillor Tatterson has a conflict, so we'll just wait for him to leave the room. Do I have someone to move that motion? Councillor Ma.
I move that Council, having considered the private request referred to Attachment 1, resolve to advance combined planning scheme amendment C115 and planning permit application P542/2021 to facilitate the rezoning of land known as Crown Allotment 11-4B, Section 1, Parish of Sale, from the farming zone to the general residential zone and the subdivision of the land into 82 lots. 2, pursuant to Sections 8A, 96A to 96B and 96C of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, resolve to request the Minister for Planning to authorise Council to prepare and exhibit Combined Planning Scheme Amendment C115 and Planning Permit Application P542/2021.
Do I have someone to second that motion? Councillor Stevens. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Marr.
Thank you. This is another private rezoning request, which also includes a consideration of planning permit application for subdivision. 96A of the Planning Environment Act 1987 allows consideration of both proposals at the same time, and it's located between the western edge of the Glenhaven estate and the Gippsland Railway line. The proposed subdivision of 82 lots is subject, however, to variation based on the continuing feedback from the statutory authorities and during the exhibition phase of the amendment process. A formal authorisation from the Minister of Planning is required before any public exhibition.
Thanks, Councillor Marr. And we'll just get Councillor Tatterson back into the chamber. You can have a rest. Item 15.5, Planning Scheme Amendment C116, Longford Precincts 9 and 10 and rezoning proposal. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Tatterson.
Thank you, Mayor. Having considered the private request referred to Attachment 1, Council resolved to advance the planning scheme amendment process to facilitate the rezoning of land within Precincts 9 and 10 of the Longford Development Plan area, Longford. Pursuant to Section 8A of the Planning Environment Act 1987, resolved to request the Minister for Planning to authorise Council as the planning authority to prepare Amendment C116, Precincts 9 and 10, Longford Development Plan Area Attachment 2, and resolved to proceed with the public exhibition of Amendment C116, Precincts 9 and 10, Longford Development Plan Area, once authorisation is granted.
Do I have someone to second that motion? Councillor Wood. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Tatterson.
Thanks, Mayor. Council's received a private request to rezone 6 parcels of land totalling approximately 146 hectares. Collectively, these parcels make up Precinct 9 and 10 of the Longford Development Plan, as shown on Figure 1. The proposal seeks to rezone the land from farming zone to rural living zone. There's a strong strategic foundation to progress this privately initiated planning scheme amendment request, which includes council adopted Sale, Warwick, Longford Structure Plan, Longford Development Plan and Longford Strategy Plan, including the Wellington Planning Scheme. And, the land will be allow a number of lifestyle lots in that north-facing, gently sloping area, and it'll add on to the success that Council have had over a number of years with the Longford area with those lifestyle lots, and it'll be provide many people for the opportunities to live on these large lifestyle north-facing lots, which will be a terrific subdivision for the future community.
Thanks, Councillor Tatterson. Item 16.1, 2021/2022 Capital Works Adjusted Budget May Update. Can I have someone to move that, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Stevens.
I'd like to move that Council approve changes to the 2021-22 Capital Works budget and resultant adjusted Capital Works budget of $47,290,507 as described below. 1. Note the current adjusted Capital Works budget 21-22, $50,442,830. 2. Remove projects that are to be deferred or removed for reasons as per Attachment 1, $835,000. 3. Remove projects that are proposed for carrying forward into 2022-23 for reasons as per Attachment 2, $2,388,323. And 4. Note the adjusted Capital Works budget 2021-22, $47,219,507.
Do I have someone to second that motion? Councillor Marr, just to whisker in front of Councillor Crosley. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Basically, this motion fulfils the requirement that the council has to consider its, start out with considering its adopted capital works budget, and as time goes on, make any adjustments for whatever reason, and it states they're set out in the attachments 1 and 2, make adjustments formally at a council meeting for the changes to our capital works budget, and effectively this is what this motion has done to bring it up to date for what's expected at the 30th of June this year. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Item 16.2, Port Albert Township Special Charge Scheme Final Certificate. Can I have someone to move that, please? Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you, Mayor. I wish to move that Council 1 adopts the final cost certificate for the Port Albert Township Special Charge Street Construction Scheme. Scheme number 1906 and point 2 authorise the Chief Executive Officer to prepare the final apportionment amount due from property owners for the Port Albert Township Special Charge Street Construction Scheme, scheme number 1906, based on the total levy of $909,000.
Do I have someone to second that motion?
Yeah, it's Councillor Ripper would like to second that if possible.
Thank you, Councillor Ripper.
Thank you.
Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you, Mayor. At its meeting on the 21st of April 2020, Council resolved to give notice of its intention to declare the Special Charge Street Construction Scheme for the construction of sealing of unsealed streets within the Port Albert Township that dates back to 1841. The initial estimated cost of the street construction works was $2.8 million. The project was subsequently tendered on the 15th of December 2020, and the works were undertaken and practical completion was achieved on the 1st of April 2022. The reason for that length of time was due to unforeseen weather events in June and October last year. And, but now it has finished. The levy invoice to appropriate residents will be at the value of $3,600 per property, which totals $909,000. Now, Council may consider this as a conflict of interest, as I do live in Port Albert, but I must just say that the difference it's made to the town is tremendous. I talk to people now that at the time did oppose the street scheme, and you talk to them now and they say, you know, we don't have to dust and clean our house every week. So they're more than happy. I also recall in April 2020 when it was passed in Council that Councillor Maher made a comment that she was really pleased that it got up to this level because she was hoping that a Bay Street was the main one, but got the whole lot done. So to my fellow councillors, Councillor Stevens and Councillor Maher, thank you very much for going the distance with this program. It's been a fantastic success. To Councillor Tatterson for coming up with the valuation per house of $3,600 has certainly been a success as well in his former life. But overall, the effect it's done on the town, the way it's made it beautiful, the way it's it's just fantastic. And again, thank you to every councillor that supported that street scheme at the time. And it's great to have a dust-free house.
Well said. Special charge schemes are great for our communities with infrastructure that needs upgrading. Item 16.2. Oh, sorry, we just did that. Item 16.3. Municipal Association of Victoria, the MAV, Aqua Energy Gas Site Supply Contract EC 8310-2022. Could I have someone to move that? Councillor Crosley.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council 1 authorise the Chief Executive Officer to execute the natural gas large sites agency deed included in Schedule A, B and C as attached, and in doing so appoints the Municipal Association of Victoria to act on Council's behalf for the procurement of the supply of natural gas to large council sites, and 2, on the basis that the tender amount for the supply of natural gas for large council sites is within budget, Council authorises the Chief Executive Officer to execute contract documents for this supply through the Municipal Association Victoria's EC 8310-2022 contract, and 3, the information contained in the confidential attachment contract MAVEC 8310-2022 Aqua Energy Large Site Gas Supply and designated confidential under Section 3.1 Confidential Information of the Local Government Act 2020 by the General Manager Bill to Natural Environment on the 7th of June 2022 because it relates to the following grounds. G2, private commercial information being information provided by a business, commercial or financial undertaking that, if released, would unreasonably expose the business, commercial or financial undertaking to disadvantage by designated confidential information under Section 3.1 Confidential Information of the Local Government Act 2020, except that once this recommendation has been adopted, the name of the successful tender can be made public.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Crosley.
Thank you, Mayor. These are really great opportunities, and Council has participated with the Municipal Association of Victoria previously on these deals, and it's safety and power in numbers when we're negotiating these contracts, so it gets the best outcome for and the best price for our community. We've had success recently with the VECA, which is the Victorian Energy Collaborative, which was with the Greenhouse Alliance, with other, I think it was about another 45 councillors when we got the renewable energy for this precinct that we're in, the port, the wedge and the business centre, 25% of our power. Certainly the Aqua Energy is our heaviest gas user, so to get the best outcome and the best price is very important to make that a great asset at the best cost for the community. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Crosley. There is no tender to announce because they advocate for us to get the cheapest price. Acting CEO, do we have any further online comments?
No, Mayor, we don't.
Okay. In that case, I will close the meeting at 6:57 p.m. Thank you, everyone.